Aaron, in an era now that we're in, obviously we, the last 3 years we went through the whole Me Too movement per se. In an era, I guess you would say, of the Harvey Weinstein aspect, what advice would you give for young female actors breaking into the business to avoid those specific situations?
Well, first of all, there's nothing better than your gut instinct. So if something doesn't feel right, it's not. That's
Mm-hmm.
one. And, and always, take somebody with you. You should never be put in a position where you should be by yourself. I mean, ever. You shouldn't be walking into somebody's house reading, nothing like that. If you're walking into Warner Brothers to audition, I mean, if we're even able to walk into Warner Brothers, to be able to have something that's not a not a self-tape from home, then, you've got a reception, you've got a guard, you've got a receptionist, you've got, you may be in the room with one person, but if you don't feel right, you leave. You have every right to be all that you are. And if that does not sit right with you, then you piece the fuck out.
Have you ever been in a position to have that casting couch experience?
I have had a similar experience, or an experience once-ish. And to be honest, the thing that sucked maybe the most is that there was a woman in the room. So
wow, okay.
This guy was disgusting, and there was a gal. And so that's kind of what bugs me almost the most, is I was like, looking back at this stuff, because I've luckily never really have been into something too bad. But I'm, I don't know. I for the most part, I'm an Italian Jew, so maybe some of this sort of like, maybe you don't fuck with me so much does carry in the room a little. But that doesn't save you from a total asshole situation. I'm not saying anything like that, but I don't have that maybe much of a gentle vibe as much as maybe somebody who's a little softer around the edges would be. But when I look back at this particular audition, this moment, I remember going like, shit, she was in there. She was in there, and I hope that she got out of there right after my audition. And he was he was a creep, and he was inappropriate. And I, in the moment, was like, you know what? I'm gonna leave. And I left. I didn't even read. I just left. I was like, peace out.
This is a question for both of you though. Like, you guys have obviously, established both your level of celebrity. How much has your life changed once you, like, I mean, what was the, for both of you, what was the moment that you were like, you felt that something is different, like in how people see you on the street, or a certain role that you both, got, where you're like, okay, I've made it? When was that moment for you, both of you? Shane, you can go first.
Well, I mean, I guess to a degree, it's kind of like, it's a process. Like it's still kind of happening, like, I don't know that it was a moment. I feel like I'm not there yet. I feel like I'm headed for that. But I feel like that is more of a byproduct of you're doing what you love and you're doing it successfully. And that's part of the stuff that comes along with it. Like, that's obviously not the goal. My goal is certainly not to be famous, and it's to support my family and certainly make some money, but not out of greed, just out of, I want to support my family. And the thing that's really interesting to Keili and I both, I know, is we want to sink our teeth into great material and tell, great stories like that. That's what I'm interested in. And if that turns out making you insanely famous, then I guess so be it. That's my answer. What about you, Keili?
First of all, hi, Babs. And yes, Ghost is dead. I just read that. So
Ghost's still alive. He's still alive. He's coming back.
Yes. Hi, Christy Castle. I see you too. Yeah, he's coming back. He's gonna walk in just a minute. We're just making him some dinner.
I just can't wait to see Sax's face when it happens too. This motherfucker. Gonna get the gun and the bottle of alcohol again.
That
It'll be a slow-mo moment.
Like,
It'll be we'll run toward each other, embrace
fire, and then he just dies. Honestly, I think Shane's answer is pretty damn good. For me, it hasn't been so much on screen. Mine was more theater based, in terms of, Yeah, I did a rock opera years ago that has sort of lived on and continues to sort of, evolve into other projects and potentially a film
Which opera was
or,
that?
Bear. It was called
Okay.
Bear. It was something I was a part of since almost right when I moved from Kansas City to LA. Like it was right on the heels of moving here.
It's when she was falling in love with one Shane Johnson. That
That's true.
Yeah, and me
That's
too. I
true.
saw that show. I saw that show probably 50 times, and she was incredible in it. It is an
Shane,
incredible show.
fun
How did you
fact,
guys How did
Shane
you
was
guys
our
meet? How
fine
did you guys meet?
choreographer. Oh, how did we meet, Shane?
Well, the children are nearby, so I don't know that I can tell that story.
We
I was a male prostitute.
He was, and he still is. No, we were in our acting class together, and we had it every Tuesday and Thursday night. And I think on Tuesday night, we were sitting in the same row, and he was like, "Hey, what's your name?" And I was like, "Keili," and he was like, "Oh, like Keili and Do," which for most people maybe you don't know, it's a play, but I knew it because I had heard it a million times, and I was like, "Yeah,
No, you
yeah,
haven't.
yes, I was." No, I was like, "Yeah, like Keili and Do," and he's like, "I'm Shane," and I was like, "Oh, I'll remember that." There was two other Shanes in the class, and so on Thursday we were walking toward each other at the very beginning of class. He was like, "Hey, Keili," and I was like, could not remember his name for the life of me. Couldn't remember his name.
She still has trouble with
I don't know who you are.
We've been together.
No,
We've been together. We've been married like 16 years, and we've been together almost 23 years.
That's incredible, man. It's mind-boggling, and especially in this day and age in our industry. And that's why I said you guys don't have a marriage, you don't have a relationship, you have an empireship. That's to me is the goal, is when you're able, because as Shane said, like you can be on this ride, but being on the ride sometimes by yourself can be depressing, and you want to be able to have that escape, but to be able to do it in the continuity that you guys have done, the foundation that you've done, the trust that you've done, the level of support for each other, you just don't see that anymore. Like you just do not see that in this business, because it's become a dog-eat-dog world of like, what's mine is mine, and what's yours is still mine. So you obviously, as I said, working, you said in theater, Shane both working as well in theater. What for you would you find the differences working in theater compared to film?
Oh, so different.
In what way? What's your experience like
Shane,
for you?
Are you going?
Oh, well, first of all, I haven't done theater in a very long time. I mean, that's where I cut my teeth. I was doing a bunch of I probably did like 35, 40 plays, coming up. and there's a certain amount of, you get trying to lock in, making sure you know your lines, and your blocking, and when you have an audience, the show must go on, right? So there's all that pressure, and then there's also like trying to be present and trying to have an experience on stage every night, especially when you're doing it for like Keili, she did Bear for an entire year or longer, and so every night, like, how do you keep it fresh? How do you keep it fresh? Whereas on camera, it's like people are learning their lines sometimes right as while they're filming, and then trying to be organic and find stuff. I don't, Keili and I don't operate that way. Like we try to work on it and have plans and have a character and know what we're doing before we show up. But it's certainly much more short-lived, and it's hotter in some ways, because it's like it's momentary and then it's gone. Whereas with theater, it's ongoing. And like Keili's been in a couple of huge movies that were so I wouldn't argue that what she said that Bear did a ton for her, the show did a ton for her, but Malibu's Most Wanted obviously has become a cult classic, and Pain and Gain was an awesome movie, and she did an incredible job in it. And I feel like she's got a bunch of her fan base comes from that as well. And she gets a lot of very interesting dick pics and things like that in her DMs.
I do, and I love them, all of them. I'm keeping a book.
Yeah,
Nice.
and Because that's,
I don't
you know,
know.
that's what, by the way, that's what women love that. Women,
We do.
yeah, we
No, you
love,
don't. No, you don't. You really don't. You
Oh no.
because I've always wondered the thing of like when the like for me like when these guys decide to send this shit, like I'm like, what do you expect the response to be? Like when she opens it up, like, hey, that's a nice package. Meet me on Wednesday. Like what goes through someone's head? I couldn't even imagine myself like sitting there whipping up my shit,
I get
snap,
it. Listen,
upload, send, tag.
girls do this shit all the time. It's only fair that we get it in return. I'm just glad I don't see faces because I don't want to imagine their face. I just want to focus on what I'm seeing. That's it. That's all I need. I don't want to
But yeah,
connect. A nice disconnect.
yeah, Keely's, yeah, that's her thing. That's how we met. We met,
Yeah, through
we
a
actually
glory
met at a
hole.
glory
Yes.
hole, at a glory hole. Yeah. That was the
That is
introduction.
true also.
let me ask you both. I mean, you guys been doing this for a long time as well. Like, do you guys still get nervous in front of a camera?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it can happen. It can definitely happen. Yeah, you kind of want to get one out of the chamber a little bit, you know, and that helps. And theater too. Theater, I mean, in terms of the last conversation we were just having, theater is you got one shot, that's it. You know, you go up on your lines, like no one's resetting for you. Like you got to figure your shit out, particularly in a musical, because unless you're just going to start like happy birthday to, and then the chicken, and you know, you can't make that up. It's like what it is, at, you know, to a rhythm. So that's it. You get one shot. But yeah, you can get nervous, but you know, ultimately, hopefully you've done enough reps in working on your material that now it's just like end action, and it's just another rep, and then you get another rep, and then a different angle. But yeah, you can have nerves. I know that he gets nerves too.
Do you prefer the
He's,
pressure? Do you prefer the pressure of like the theater more than, you know, the slow aspect of prime time?
No preference, different beast.
yeah.
Which one do
What
you
about
find more
you?
challenging? Me,
I mean, theater is more challenging.
way more challenging. Way more challenging. Like to
Yeah,
me, that you have to
yeah,
be
yeah, yeah.
on. But I believe that pressure, the way I look at it, I said this to Shane before, is that like whether you know, because we're all looking for that. I think as actors, you guys have obviously seen the movie Legends of the Fall with Brad Pitt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
and I think we've all, when we get into business, want that moment that Brad had at the end of that movie where you're like, the first time you saw it, you're like, this guy's going to be a star. Like you knew in that moment
Yeah.
that this guy was going to be something special. And I believe that like when
Yeah.
you're going for any job, or even necessarily, and this I was talking with Shane, like with sometimes you get a bad script, you get a really, you know, crappy script.
Mm-hmm.
It's up to you, I believe, as an actor to find a way to make the script work, even if it's shit, because I look at
Yeah.
that potential person that's watching you for the first time. It's almost like an audition for another role that you haven't gotten. Like you could
Oh,
play it
yeah.
and be really crappy and just say, okay,
But
you know what?
that is your audition for your next or down the road piece. That's correct. It's always up to you. And yes, I heard you guys discussing like, you know, actor versus meh script. And I do agree. But that being said, you know, you can still have someone make some good choices. I think some stuff can be forgivable if somebody makes some interesting choices.
So what's your, like, I mean, for both of you, like what's your approach when it comes to taking a certain role? Are you more interested in the script? Are you more interested in who's in the movie per se with you, who you're working with, or who's directing it?
Script, director, who's in it for me, I would
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, I would say that too.
'Cause
And also the part, right? Like your particular part in it. And because sometimes, you know, you'll be like, oh, this is really great, but this isn't my casting, or I'm not into that particular role. But you know, I would agree. I think it's the script first and foremost is the thing that's going to be exciting, you know, because we've all had those auditions for things that you're like, well, it's actually a pretty interesting role, but the script is awful.
Yes, but I'll tell you, the very first job that I had when I moved out to LA was I worked for a friend's mom who was a fantastic casting director, who has Phyllis Huffman, who has since passed, but she cast all of Clint Eastwood's pieces. And so I got to work with Clint, which was amazing. And he is fantastic as a human being, but he was just great. But Clint gives you one take and then you move on. And that's it. Unless a light or a boom is just going to go across, that's all the fuck he's given you. That is it. So I think it's really important to find out who the director is. When I booked Pain and Gain and I knew it was Michael Bay, it told me a little bit about what we were going to do with this piece. You know, I knew how he shot things. I knew what kind of action he wanted, but this was a piece that he had wanted to do for like 20 years, but he had all these deals with Paramount before that. So they wanted just action, action, action. And he wanted something that was a little more story driven. It was a very different piece for him. But it's, you know, you learn a lot from who's attached to a piece, but script is obviously, you know, the very biggest clue that you're going to get.
What about you, Shane?
Yeah, I would say that. I would 100% say that it's the script. And sometimes something is just so incredibly written that you're just like, oh my God, I have to be in this movie. Now, granted, you might not get cast in it, but just as an actor, that's where your heart goes, as you go, this script is unbelievable. And, and just to be, you know, a part of something like that sometimes is worthwhile. You know, but you also just never know. I mean, you never know. Sometimes movies, I mean, like, look at, just as an example of Good Will Hunting, that everybody passed on and no one wanted to make. And finally, what was it? Gus Van Sant finally at a party was like, all right, fine, I'll do your movie, whatever that story is. And then he ends up winning an Academy Award for, you know, they win an Academy Award for the best screenplay, and they couldn't get the movie made, you know? And that's just like one example, but there are so many stories that are like that. So the other thing I would say is, if you're a creative, if you've got a script, if you're a talent, believing in yourself and believing in this story that you have to tell is valid. I mean, it's one of the things that, you know, Keili and I are doing now, is going, what can we get off the ground and produce ourselves and act in ourselves and wrangle people together for, and use our relationships to make happen. Because, and it's scary because you're putting your ass on the line. You're vouching for the material. You're demanding the money, the budget, and then you're also roping your friends and loved ones into this thing, and you're putting your ass on the line. But
and that's the truth. And I think the whole key to that is having like all the right motherfuckers around you, you know. And I'm looking on here and I'm seeing Steve's on there, and Maya's on there, and Johnny Crown's on there, and Bab's on there, and I see you, Gabe. You know, all these people, and you know, in our studio, Richard tells us to just not wait. Don't wait for the phone to ring. You just create your own shit. Like, I mean, you know, whatever it is that you're after, you create the evidence, and then you present it to the world. And maybe it's not the first person who answers, the second person or whatever, but we've all, I mean, like Johnny Crown's got like a comic book series, you know. I'm sure he thought, I'm coming out here to do, you know, he's a musician as well, and an actor, and he's great at all those things. But like, you create your own shit, you know. And then you have to have that force. But we all, in our group of friends, we all, you know, we support each other and say, like, how's that thing going? Like, come on, how can I help you? Like, we've had more people hold booms for each other and like shoot shit and help edit or find the right song. And that's how, I mean, that's why, you know, you talk about like my relationship with Shane, like we have a lot of that kind of Brandy's on there too. I mean, all this, like, you know, we have good peeps around us.
Yeah. And
makes it easy.
And I feel like too, in a world now, for creative people, in a world now that's so hungry for content, you know, there's so many avenues for it, that, you know, somebody like Robert Rodriguez, who came up doing like El Mariachi, right? And he started with a couple of VHS recorders and edited together that first movie for a couple grand, or the guys that made Paranormal Activity for a few grand, you know, the first one. It's like there's it's ripe for that. It's ripe for uniqueness and creativity, and I feel like getting together like-minded people that are supportive and loving and have a mutual passion. I feel like you can't lose. But I do feel like you have to hang yourself out to dry. You've got to go, well, let's go full tilt and go for it. Because there's a lot of half-ass stuff out there, and half-ass stuff will always be half-assed, you know.
Keili, do you feel though that the industry now has gotten less away from storytelling and more CGI?
Well, that's the CGI is still storytelling, right? I mean, as an example, Thanos is really, it's like a full three-dimensional character. It's unbelievable what they've done with the CGI. Granted, they've got Josh Brolin voicing it and doing an incredible job with the voice, but he had emotion. He felt real. It was palpable. You know, CGI is certainly changed what we're doing. We talked about it earlier about the green screen thing. Like, how do you act with a bunch of dots and in front of a blue or green screen when there's, you know, I haven't really had the opportunity / challenge to do that much. You know, everything I've done has been pretty practical. You know, if there are effects, they're practical effects. Like, I've been lit on fire a few times, jumped out of windows, you know, things like that. There's no CGI, you know?
Yeah.
Do you prefer to do your own stunt, Shane? Like when that, or would you rather do a stunt double?
I would prefer to do my own stunts. What'd you say?
I said I wouldn't go that far.
I do use a stunt.
He goes.
I do use a stunt ass. So I have like a guy that comes in for my ass shot.
It's a woman.
It's actually Keili's. It's actually Keili's.
For actors that, you know, have obviously never done the sex scenes, how do you prepare for that mentally?
Honestly, the thing that I thought about the most, other than, of course, you know, trying to get myself physically into a place that I was happy with, was the main thing is just going, I didn't want to focus on the physicality and the sex aspect of it. Like, I wanted to have that sort of thought through, the choreography of it kind of locked in so that I didn't have to worry about that. And I wanted to focus on the storytelling. Like Keili said earlier, like, what I really wanted to do with Peyton was go, okay, so what is this about? Because even on Power, sometimes I feel like, and certainly a lot of the sex scenes you see, it's about the sort of glamour and the beauty shots and the sort of look at how sexy this is. And I was like going, but that's not Cooper Sack's story here. This is going to be like, how kind of kinky is it? How weird is it? How, like, what is he after? What's his story? What's her story? How are they coming at each other? And I feel like all that makes, as an actor, helps me get through it, because I can focus on the performing of that stuff. And, you know, if it were a different movie, if it was more about the glamour, that would probably be hard. That would be harder. You know, this wasn't about like, oh, let's look at how beautiful Cooper Sax was. It was never that. You know, it was never that. So if that would be a whole different, you know, if I was trying to be like, you know, that, it would probably bring in a whole bunch of additional insecurities, you know.
What do you, I mean, for you, Keili, do you in the roles that you play, have you ever felt uncomfortable per se, number one, in doing those type of scenes?
No, I really haven't. I've been really lucky. I've had great people that I've been able to work with that I trusted. And, you know, you definitely, you don't want to have that be like your very first scene up. That's uncomfortable probably. But as long as you connect with the person and you're like, hey, I mean, that's the thing that I've kind of always do is I'm like, are you cool with me doing this? Or you're, you know, I'm comfortable with that. And then once, I mean, listen, in Pain and Game, I worked with a guy, Michael Rispoli, who plays like my husband, boyfriend, whatever. And up front, like from jump, I was like, so listen, I'm probably going to do this, and I might try this, I might try that. Are you fine with this? And he was like, okay. And I was like, I'm comfortable with this. I'm comfortable. And he was like, all right. And so we did all sorts of shit, and 80% of that film of our scenes hit the cutting room floor, so you never even saw them. So all of our raciest shit you never saw. But for the most part, I try to connect with the person beforehand and get some sort of reality with him and vice versa. And same with Bar Paley in that film, because one point, I think I just grabbed her and kissed her, which also make the film. But no, I'm fine with it. You know, I you know, they're professionals. If you're working with someone who's not a professional and just trying to like, you know, hitch up, then that's something else. But
Yeah.
that's their problem.
And in the last
Yeah.
handful of years, anything like that now, it has a basically a choreographer. They've got
Right.
an intimacy coordinator that that has for you know, for security purposes essentially.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
you're filtered through this sort of net of an intimacy coordinator that's like walking you through everything. It used to be like Keili was saying, like even just a few years ago, it was a little bit more like, and it probably still is like this maybe on stage, I guess, or an indie film, but I feel like the days of going, hey, so we should practice, or you know, that's what actors do, right? Hey, we
Yeah.
should practice getting comfortable with each other, and like, let's rehearse. You want to come to my place and we'll rehearse? It's like
We did
that.
We did that.
Yeah, we did that for sure.
We did do that.
For
I
sure, we
can't
did
remember the
plenty
name.
of rehearsal.
We
But
rehearsed a lot, and now we're
and I don't
married.
even think we were working on a scene. We were just rehearsing.
How do you,
Yeah.
for you, obviously, I mean, we all know the stage kiss. How do you know when you are putting out a good kiss that you know is not going to look like shit on camera?
Listen,
When you
I
see
mean,
it.
when you see it, I mean, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way to Shane, and he's not going to take disrespect, you know, at all from this, but it's okay for you to, you know, enjoy yourself in a moment as like a character, you know, as long as your ethics are in for your
Where did you
relationship,
find this
it's
woman?
okay.
Can you duplicate her? Like, where did you change? Seriously, where did you find this woman? Like,
I
I
tried
need one. I need a
duplicating her.
Keili in my life, man.
I tried duplicating her, but I came out with 2 sons. So I mean,
That's not the same. Yeah, I'm not saying that that's what that's about, but it's, you know, I think sometimes you have these moments and you're like, shit, that was pretty hot, and you know,
Mhm.
that's okay. You don't have to let the other actor know, whatever, but it's all right, you know. It is completely. I think it's okay, you know.
Someone said Shane's sleeping on the couch tonight.
Oh hell no, he's not.
no, that's you know, she's right though, because listen, part of the thing with acting is that we're trying to really connect with people,
Mhm.
and impinge, right, where you're trying to actually have an effect
Yes.
on other actors, and because if it's palpable to the person you're working with in the scene,
Mhm.
then ideally it's also going to be palpable to the audience, right?
Mhm.
If it's clinical to the between 2 people, it's going to read
Yeah.
clinical, and we've all seen that, and it kind of takes you out of the, you know, like there's some famous hot kisses even between, or you know, love scenes even between people that hated each other,
They hate each
Mhm.
other. You know,
you
if
know.
you can turn yourself on, then you're ahead of the game. But you know, you have to be able to act and fall in love with the chair. You gotta just, you know.
She doesn't even need me. See, she doesn't even need me.
I do not.
So I know, Shane, you said that you have a hard time staying motivated. Keili, do you have that same problem?
No, I mean, and he doesn't so much either. He's hard on himself I would say that's the bigger
true.
thing for him. No, I think sometimes the hardest thing for me is to prioritize, you know, to make sure that I'm like 100% here and 100% on there.
And that's a good question.
No,
How do you prioritize and balance motherhood, the industry, and being a present wife?
you know, I mean, I don't have a lot of a choice. I mean, I'm like, I know I got to get up at this point. I know that I mean, I'm pretty organized. And
Mhm.
so the way that I do like our night before a day of school is a little obsessive. Everything is set out and done. Their clothes are out. The placemats are out. The vitamins are out. Like I know what they're going to have. Everything is packed. I have things in the door so they can't pass through the door without taking that shit. Masks
Mhm.
included, all that stuff. So I know that I have between the time that they are dropped off and the time that they'd be picked up, and they have 2 different pickup times, that I only have this much time to myself. And once they're home, who knows what's happening after that? Could be an extracurricular, like I said, sports, football, whatever, a class they may have, an assignment they have that they told me about just now and it's due in the morning, whatever it is. you know, my time is spoken for. So I have to just go, this is what it is. You know, I just put blinders on. That's the real honest answer, is I have to just put the blinders on and I get done what I have to. I probably don't get to do as much social stuff as I would love to. And so that when I do it, I blow it out. But I'm good about keeping my eyes on the prize.
Have you ever not gotten the job because you are a mother?
Well, fuck them if that's happened. Actually, I don't know. I have no idea.
I don't.
Because I know a lot of people have had that issue.
I'll tell you what. I did a film years ago where they had somebody, they fell out. My agent called me. They said, I just want to meet you. I was like, I haven't read anything. They said, just go in there and meet. And they gave me this script, some sides in front of me. We're sitting at this big long table. And they said, I just want to let you know the script's about, and blah, 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 blah. And we actually were starting to shoot. They were shooting very soon, like days soon. And I'm thinking, I just found out I was pregnant. Like I was pregnant. And they said at the very end, it's really done. It's a great little happy story. And she finds out she's pregnant. I was like, by the way, I'm pregnant. They're like, that's perfect. So it worked to my advantage. I did for a long time, for like 8 years, just under 8 years, I was the voice of the Gap here and in Canada.
Okay.
And I was patched in. So I never met the producers. They were in Chicago and San Francisco and in New York. And I was like out to here. And so they never knew. The only time that they may have had a hint of it is because they're like, can you take a deeper breath? I feel like you need more breath. And I'm like, yeah, there's a person on my business, like on my diaphragm. So sure, let me go back and do it again. But I don't think it's never been a thing, really.
Pause to throw up on the side.
Hold on a second. I have a fan question coming in here for you guys. Hold on. There's somebody in there. See if they hop on here.
And then we have to go.
By the way, Trev Steele, by the way, I blocked him. Whatever he was.
I blocked him.
There was a whole situation there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your name, bro? What's your name? Where you from?
My name is Grandel.
And where you from?
Pennsylvania.
What's your question, bro?
Nah, I love you so much. On Power, yo.
Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that job you have to be dying with Stat, Davis, Tariq.
Thank you, man. Well, I'm glad you're enjoying it. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm a big supporter on that drone, bro.
What was that?
I'm a big supporter.
I appreciate it. We all do. We need guys like you out there, so I appreciate it.
Thanks, man.
Thanks, brother.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I don't know what was going on with that dude. I have no idea.
I don't know, but I have to tell you, I was like, I'm so interested in what he was saying that I could hardly figure out what we were talking about. He was like, his penis is where? In his vagina. Okay, great, good for you.
Yeah, so for both of you, in the sense, I mean, obviously this, as we know, this industry is extremely difficult at times. When did you both decide that you wanted, like, did you always wanted to be in the entertainment industry as an actor? And second question, if your kids wanted to pursue this, knowing what you know, would you support them to get into the business if they wanted to do it?
100%. No one ever told me I couldn't do what I was dreaming to do, and I would never put that on them, ever. That's my answer. If that's what they wanted to do, I will support them till the end of time, period. And they're both creative. So, I mean, one of them would probably deny that that's what they're going to do, but he will end up doing something creative, whether he wants to admit it or not. So I think it's probably coming for both of them. That's my answer on that part.
Shane, what about you?
I totally agree with that. And, you know, since I was like 14, this has been what I was about, was acting. And I think Keili, she was doing it before I was. So, you know, it's pretty much been, thank God it's worked out, because I really did not have a backup plan. I was like, this is what I'm doing. Yeah. You know,
it never occurred to either one of us to not do it, honestly.
Yeah, we thankfully both had really supportive families that just believed in us and made us feel like we could. And that's, for a lot of artists, that is the hard part, because a lot of artists have families that are like, hey, get a real job, you know, and this is a real job, but because that's not real to that family member, they have a hard time seeing like, wait, you're going to go move from our little whatever town and you're going to go out to New York or Los Angeles or wherever, and you're going to be an actor. Like, come on, really? And so when you have people that are really supportive and believe in you, it just kind of it kind of gives you the wind beneath your wings that you need. And we were both blessed with that.
What do you guys say to the naysayers that, like, someone who wants to get into the business that hears those people that say, you know, why would you want to do that? Get a real job. What's your advice for them, for people that are in their ear saying that shit to them?
Well, you got to have the right people on your bus. So we were talking about earlier, you know, you just must have the right people around. And, you know, you do what you can in terms of setting people straight. You know, you have to put boundaries around yourself and in relationships. And if those things after time are not respected or met, then sometimes you kind of have to distance or disconnect from that sort of toxicity. And I know that's weird because sometimes that can come from a parent. And so I'm not saying disconnect from your family or your parents at all. I'm not. But, you know, you have to stand your ground. I mean, there's nothing worse than not fulfilling what it is that you're after. I don't think it ever goes away, whether it's acting or you know, any sort of passion. Doesn't matter what it is. So,
see, I've always believed, like, you know, there's always this tug of war battle where people feel that, like, you know, the only way to make it in the business is to come to Los Angeles. And I've always said that, like, it's like Frank Sinatra. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere, as long as you have the passion to follow through, do the work. And then, to me, I always say, like, you know, don't go to LA unless you've been invited. What is your feel for those who, you know, because, you know, everyone has this thing. They feel, okay, if I go to LA and I get an agent, I'm going to be famous and it's all going to work out. What do you tell those people in the sense of your journey, for both of you, what the true reality is?
Well, let me start by saying I think we're going to get cut off here in about 4 seconds here.